Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, and I'd like to call the meeting of the Arts Council of Hillsborough County to order. I'm CJ Roberts, Chair of the Arts Council. Quick reminder for everyone, this is an information-only meeting. We lack the numbers that are comfortable meeting in person to make up a quorum, so if there is any business that comes out of today's meeting, we'll have to address that through our Executive Finance Committee. Martine, will you take the roll?
Thank you. Theron Butler. Santiago.
Present.
Dee Hood.
I'm here.
Lindsay Kimball.
Present.
Julian McKenzie.
Present.
The Honorable Guido Maniscalco. Robin Nye.
I'm here.
Tyler Odell.
Present.
Megan Parsons.
Present.
Dontavius Pittman.
Present.
Andrea Richardson.
Present.
CJ Roberts.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Sandra Schrock.
Present.
And Eliza. Bob Terry.
Present.
Georgia Bayhew.
Present.
And is Nick Langdenfeld here today?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to introduce Nick. Paul Berg couldn't be here, but Nick is his intern at the Carrollwood Cultural Center, so he's joining us for today's meeting. Welcome, Nick.
Hi.
All right. Martine, anyone here from the public that wishes to make a comment today?
We were not notified of any public comment that needs to be made today.
Okay, moving on. Next item, Chair's report. I get off easy today. I just have one item, and it's my pleasure to introduce a familiar face, I think, to many of you, Neil Gobioff, and he is going to be joined by Robert Miles, and they're going to talk to us about ArtSpace, which I think is an ambitious but very exciting project. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. As CJ said, I'm Neil Gobioff. And to give you a brief introduction of myself, I'll then pass it over to Bob to introduce himself. I'm president of the Gobioff Foundation, small family foundation located here in Tampa, and we support the arts in Tampa and our Hillsborough and Pinellas counties primarily, as well as human rights, civil liberties, and social justice issues. And one of the things that we have been supporting recently is the ArtSpace Tampa initiative. So I'm also CFO of Crab Devil. So just as a side note, and I'll hand it over to Bob to introduce himself.
Hi, thanks for the invitation. They say Earth without art is just eh. So it's exciting to talk to you about ArtSpace, a live, work, collaborate, show place that has been successful throughout the United States, and we're hoping that Hillsborough County and more specifically Tampa is the next project. I brought along some slides to share, and we're also would like Robin Nye, who's on our committee, to chime in if she would like, Robin. And we're a group of 20 or 30 private citizens with some public support from somebody like Robin, who have all banded together to bring a live work project to Tampa. So this is my first time on WebEx, but I'll try to share about 10 slides, which might help all of you who aren't familiar with ArtSpace understand what we're trying to do. So do I just hit share on the bottom?
Yes.
Okay. And then, do I hit my slides?
Yes, you do.
Okay, let's see if this works. Can you see the slides or no?
Not yet.
Okay, do I have to hit something else?
There should be a blue share button that sort of hovers over the little squares that you're seeing. So if you hit that, that's usually what.
I don't see blue square.
Do you want me to try it, Bob?
Yeah,
I can
thanks.
run I'll run the slides
Yeah,
from my side.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone seeing it?
Yep.
Yes. So we're calling ourselves the Art Space Tampa Initiative, creating a better Tampa through the arts community, which I'm sure all of you are on board with. And we have a website, artspacetampa.org, if you'd like to see more of what we've accomplished in the past year. The next, and this is the geographical spread of successful art space projects. They're headquartered in Minneapolis. They're the nation's leading nonprofit arts developer. They only do development for artists, and there's a broad definition of artists. It's the whole creative community. And you can see that there's some 23 of these art space properties in Minnesota, 5 in Seattle, and there's 1 in Florida in Fort Lauderdale. And we're hoping Tampa Bay is the next location. The most interesting thing to me about art space, now into their 3rd decade, not one of these properties has ever closed. So there's been no failures. They prevent gentrification that artists often find themselves in the middle of by owning it through a nonprofit. Next slide. We'll show you some examples, 3 examples of different properties that they've developed, each unique. This is PS 109 in East Harlem, New York City. This was a condemned public school that developers wanted to bulldoze and put up premier condos. Instead, it was gifted to art space, and it's now home to some 90 artists, with the first floor being a show place. So it's community space and ability for the creative artists to show their work, possibly sell their work, and pay for their rent. I'm told that a 500 square foot live work studio in East Harlem, Manhattan rents for $500 a month, just to give you an idea of the affordability of this property. Next slide. This is a ground up. So the first one was a reconfiguration or revitalization of an existing building. This was a ground up after Art Space came in and did an art market study of the artist. Where do you want to live? How much can you afford? Are you bringing your family? Do you need 1 bedroom, 3 bedrooms? What kind of configuration do you need on the community space? And this was built and recently opened in Mesa, Arizona, outside of Phoenix. The next slide is a combination in Memphis, where Art Space built a new live workspace for artists on the left. And on the right, you can see they butt up to an existing warehouse, which is also a workspace, show place, as well as retail space. And you can see here in the courtyard, they can use it for the artists to perform dance or music. So those are 3 different kinds of properties that Art Space has in their portfolio of some 53 properties. And we have an open canvas here in Tampa, where we might do an existing building, we might do a ground up building, or we might do a combination like in Memphis, Tennessee. The next slide is the actual advertisement for the Memphis art lofts, which are known as South Main, where you can see it's a live work. It's also for musicians, it's for families, and it's all about diversity. Next slide. Well, and this shows the affordability 58, and the rents were advertised for less than $1,000 for a 3-bedroom unit. This is, we don't want to get too deep into the finances, but part of partnering with ArtSpace in Minnesota is they bring all the financing connections with them and all the tools of real estate development by primarily using low-income housing tax credits. The example here in Memphis for almost a $20 million facility, you can see how the funds were publicly sourced, mainly through low-income housing tax credits, but also state historic tax credits. And then there was a big philanthropist, I think this is the Walton family, if I'm correct, Neil?
No, the Waltons are Arkansas.
Okay, so this was another major philanthropist who put in $3 million. Most of all the funding goes, the public funding is ArtSpace partners with our very own hometown Raymond James, who Neil will announce what Raymond James has put in so far to help us with the next project that we're launching Thursday. Next. And then, so we hired this team of 6. We partnered with Neil's and his wife's foundation, who put up half the money for the preliminary feasibility study. And we engaged Tempest Projects and Tracy Medulla to be our fiscal sponsor as well as our project manager. And along with this team in Minnesota, virtually, we did a preliminary feasibility report, which was delivered to us in October and is available at artspacetampa.com. And these are some of the highlights on the 4 different groups that they surveyed. The first, we asked a team of about 30 artists where they would like to live. And you can see that Tampa Heights and Ybor City, as well as Seminole Heights, came up really high just on the preliminary feasibility study. And then we asked them what their needs were, and you can see affordable housing came up very high in the preliminary feasibility study, as well as having public workspace, and also in terms of having community space as well. So this is kind of ArtSpace's, what they do is they survey the market and they ask. The next group, they asked the funders and financiers where they would like to see the project, and they chose Ybor City as well as Tampa. And then they surveyed the civic leaders. About 20 funders and financiers participated, and about 20 civic leaders, some on this call. And the civic leaders said Ybor City, West Tampa, East Tampa, Seminole Heights. And then they did a public forum, and several hundred people participated in the public forum. You can see showed Ybor City, Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights. So next up is we've in the process of launching the next path to a ArtSpace project, the art market study, which Neil can talk about. And we're looking for a few more funds, although Neil, I guess, may announce what came in the mail yesterday, I guess. Neil?
Yeah, so I'm going to leave this up just for a second. So that number is actually, we got what Bob was alluding to, is we got a $10,000 donation from Raymond James.
Wow.
And, you know, and normally what Raymond James' involvement is, let me stop my sharing here. They are the distributor of the affordable housing tax credit. So they're the reseller. So with the way it all works, they're not actually a financer of the projects. But, you know, as Bob was saying, the next step that we have is the arts market survey. And I thought this would be a great time for us to present to the Arts Council, because the main thing that we need right now, aside from the funds to finish the survey, which any of you individuals who would love to donate, we'd appreciate, but I recognize that the Arts Council we're not in a position for the Arts Council to donate anything. But is getting the word out. We need artists to actually fill out the survey. So the launch is on Thursday at 6 p.m. We have a Zoom event where we will be giving away 3 door prizes. We'll be giving away a $100 gift certificate to King State, which is a coffee place. And we have season pass to Stageworks and Sustainer Container Locker from Tempest Projects. So we need to get the word out, get artists to attend both the launch and then more importantly to fill out the survey. The feasibility study asked the question, does Tampa need this? We all knew the answer was yes. This says, okay, now what is exactly that this building's going to need? The survey asks questions about what are the artists, this is for artists, creatives, makers, cultural bearers, a very broad definition of artists and creatives. Anyone within a 50-mile radius of Tampa is the goal. So it's a regional survey, but it's going to ask them questions about what's affordable mean to them, how many rooms would they need, how many parking spots might they need, what amenities would they like to see. Is it more important for them that there's a gym versus studio rentals or rehearsal space? What is it that they really want to see in the building? The information that is gathered from this survey will help inform where we take the next step, where this next step in the pre-development phase, what areas are we going to look at? Like I'd ask all these artists again, out of that list we kind of narrowed down from those other groups, which is your preferred neighborhood? Where would you like to see this kind of building? And so we're hoping that our goal is at least 1,000 respondents. We need, we've had some artists that are thinking that they can help us break the 2,000 mark, which would be fantastic. We're getting a lot of grassroots efforts going on right now. But anything you guys can do to help us spread the word and connect with the artists and make sure that they recognize that how important the survey is. The data that comes out of the survey will be fantastic for the entire region to understand what the needs are and what the desire is from this community, what they'd like to see. There are examples that ArtSpace provides of places where they didn't necessarily build a building, but after this survey, a developer took that and recognized the need and actually started incorporating these kinds of spaces into their developments going forward. And so that's a huge shift, right? I mean, if with all the developments going on here, if we started to see them start incorporating artist maker spaces and studio spaces inside each development, I mean, it would solve a huge, especially if they were affordable ones, it would be a huge gap that could be filled. So did you want to add anything, Bob? Do you want to?
I think we should open it up for questions, and we really appreciate you inviting us to share the ArtSpace story with you.
Well, first of all, I want you guys to know that we have on the call with us today Eileen Blake, who is our Communications and Strategic Initiatives Coordinator. We have already talked about getting the word out to artists, so we are prepped and ready to go. And I will have Eileen reach out to you to get a strategy in place, but we are more than happy to help publicize this.
Quick question. Neil, I actually already sent a note to Tracy to ask for this survey link when it's ready, but I wasn't sure. Is she the best person to communicate with, or should I email you?
Either one's fine.
Okay, and I'll just wait.
If she wants to hand it off, so she is an assistant project manager. She's working with Jessica Todd. She might hand it off to Jessica to be the person to connect with. Jessica's the one who's kind of put all the graphics together that we're using, as well as the language and kind of some email samples and all the stuff that you can use to help promote it.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll just keep an eye out for a note. Thanks.
Yeah, this is Robin, and I just want to thank, I mean, the amount of work and effort that has gone into this is incredible, and the amount of planning, and every effort has been made for it to be as inclusive as possible. And one of the things also is, some of you may remember when Mayor Castor first took office, Neil was one of the primary organizers of the symposium that was held. And it at HCC on Dale Maybury campus, and the number one issue that kept coming up was artist housing. So this is a need, and it's very timely, and we are just extremely grateful for the efforts that you put into this.
Thank you. And that forum is available on YouTube, by the way. HCC filmed it and has it available on their YouTube channel if anyone's interested in watching it. Are there any other questions? So Analyze has joined. I see Analyze is on, as well as Robin, are on our core group, which I'm the chair of, and we're adding people recently to help get the word out and spread it far and wide as we expand our reach into the artist community. And you know, as I said, that's a broad sense of the word. Art space takes a very broad view of that. When it comes to the buildings themselves, there's a local committee that actually reviews the applications. So it's really defined by the local community as to what that means in regards to the Art Space Tampa building once we get there. But I hope you all will join us on Thursday perhaps and learn more from Art Space themselves. We'll also be broadcasting it on Facebook Live if you don't want to actually register on Zoom. But if you want to qualify for the door prizes, you have to register and join us on Zoom. Anything else?
Well, if there weren't any other questions, I wanted to share a story about a Hillsborough County artist who went to HCC and learned his art craft in Ybor City. He then attempted to open a live-work space in downtown Tampa, across from Stetson Law School. He was unable to, so he went over to St. Petersburg and bought an old warehouse. And he created a live, work, teach, collaborate space, which is now known as the Duncan McClellan Gallery, and is one of the top tourist attractions in St. Petersburg, and has spawned other art warehouse projects in and around his gallery. And he shared with us a few weeks ago that the houses around his warehouse, when he first moved in some 10 years ago, were crack houses selling for about $25,000, and now they're selling for $600,000. So you can see the economic development that can possibly happen, as well as the visitor attraction that an art space project may bring to Hillsborough County.
Great. Well, this is
Thank you
very
again for having us.
well. Thank you both so much for being with us, and thank you for everything you're doing for our community. I think this really is a fascinating project, and Martine, I'm sure you'll keep us posted in ways we can be supportive as this moves forward. I apologize to everybody. Our network died, and I missed about 10 minutes of the presentation here. But Martine, maybe you can brief me afterwards on what I missed. Next item, Martine, Executive Director report.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank
Thank
you.
So I put some information in your packet about the diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace certificate. Both Eileen and I have signed up to do this. Coursework starts tomorrow. We feel very strongly that since access, diversity, equity, inclusion are such a huge part of our new strategic plan, that we need as much information as possible. So while we're doing this, we've got a real treat for you at the April 27th board meeting. Anthony Kyler, would you share your screen, Eileen? Anthony Kyler, who we worked with a little bit last year on our diversity. He's very well credentialed, and he is going to be doing a training for the board at the April board meeting. So please we're going to carve out an hour and a half for this. It's going to be a little bit of a mini board retreat based on cultural equity, and he's going to be leading the discussion for us. And I think before we go out into the community and do more work and do more workshops, I think for the staff and the board to be very well trained is important. So I'm delighted that University of South Florida is offering this certificate program. I showed it to Antonio and he just thought it was excellent. So Eileen and I are excited about doing that. And we wanted you to all be aware of that and the fact that we'll be getting you some training at the April board meeting.
Quick question, Martine, if I may.
Yes.
As we're doing this during the board meeting, is this also going to be open to the public?
Oh, everything we do is open to the public.
Okay.
So anyone else that would like to attend certainly can, but we are going to be scheduling specific workshops after this that are for the cultural organizations around curatorial issues. We expect to have a number of sessions that people can attend, but until we get out of COVID, they're going to be, we'll be taping them and making them available to everybody who can't actually join us virtually. Any other questions about the training? Okay. Well, the next thing that was in your board packet was the timeline for Arts Council grant making. And this is for all 3 grants that we have. In advance of this meeting, I talked to the members of the External Relations Committee one-on-one because I wanted them to be aware of what we're doing this year, and now we're going to make all of you aware of it. So when the ordinance is enacted, we will manage grants much like Cultural Assets Commission does now, which on the Cultural Assets Commission, the board members actually review the applications and the Board of County Commissioners make the vote to release the funds. So because we expect this transition to happen during this grant cycle, I spoke to Lindsay about whether we could just go ahead and implement our board members being the adjudicators of the grants, as many as would like to. This is, and she thought it was fine to go ahead and do it, and it will make the transition much more seamless, I think. So we gave the External Relations Committee first right of refusal, and 3 of them would like to be grant panelists for the Cultural Development Grant, which is our first deadline coming up. And we can have as many more as would like to. Probably we need at least 4 or 5. Some of you love being panelists, so volunteer. We would love to have you involved. Some of you may not want to do that right now. You might prefer the individual artist grant, or it may be something that you don't have time in your schedule for. It's fine, but we're going to utilize as many board members who have an interest as possible. Now, until the ordinance is official, what we will do is when the board votes for the amounts, those that were panelists for that grant will recuse themselves from that vote. So that will just be in effect until the Board of County Commissioners comes into play and they're making the funding decisions. As I talked to the members of External Relations, it was interesting. We talked about how this will, first of all, I think it's going to have continuity to the process that we maybe haven't had to such a degree before. And I also think it's really going to help the board get to know the organizations better and see the benefits of the funding that we provide. So I'm excited about it. I hope you all are too. Georgia just said she'd like to be a panelist. Anybody else, just get back to me after the meeting, send me an email and say, now, right now, we're just recruiting for cultural development. Then we'll start recruiting for community arts impact a little closer to that grant time. So, so all the deadlines are there and the time that you have to review the applications and the time of the panel meeting. And again, this will all be virtual as it was this past year. Wanted you all to be aware of that. And next, I put the cultural development grant scoring rubric for FYE 2022 in here so that you can sort of, we've tried to document goals of our strategic plan. So, tweaking of this rubric, but we also got some good feedback from panelists last year, ways that it could make it a little bit easier for them to score, and we took their suggestions in place. So this is something, certainly the ones that are going to be panelists will want to review this, but we will have a panelist orientation. We always do that. And I did want to include it in the packet just for everyone to be aware that we have aligned this much better with our strategic plan and the goals of that. So that's it for my report, CJ.
All right. Well, thank you, Martine. For Martine, and by the way, I'm doing this, I'm sharing this on my phone, but I see all of you. So jump in if you do have any questions.
Hey,
Hearing none.
CJ, this is Santiago. Question for Martine. Normally, how many applications come in for that particular grant?
About 24 is our average. So that's how many that need to be reviewed, which, but we're always trying to increase that number. So I'm not going to promise because we're trying to do a better job of promoting the funding so it could increase. But that's about half of what I was a grant panelist for on the state level this last year. So it's not quite as intense a responsibility as some other grant programs where you have 60 applications. So 24 is about the average.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, thank you again, Martine. It's a lot of good stuff going on, and I'm particularly looking forward to the DEAI training, and thank you for coordinating that. I think that'll be a good session next month. Any other business this afternoon? No other business? All right. Then thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we stand adjourned.
Good afternoon, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.